Good morning, all. As we enter into this virtual service, please note you have been muted by our host. If you wish to speak during announcements and/or joys and concerns, please go to the participants icon, then click Raise the Hand button. A blue hand will appear by your name. When Andy calls on you, you can then hit the Unmute Me button and speak. Click on the lower hand button and the Mute Me button when you are finished. Remember, do not unmute yourself until Andy calls on you. Thank you. When I became convinced that the universe is natural, that all the ghosts and gods are myths, there entered into my brain the joy of freedom. I was free to think, to express my thoughts, free to live for myself and for those I loved, free to investigate, to guess and dream and hope, free to reject all ignorant and cruel creeds, all the inspired books that savages have produced, free from popes and priests, free from sanctified mistakes and holy lies, free from the fear of eternal pain, free from devils, ghosts, and gods. There were no prohibited places in all the realms of thought. No following in other steps, no need to bow or cringe or crawl or utter lying words. Robert Ingersoll. Mary will light our chalice this morning. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lit the flame within us and the community. Thank you, Mary. Before we sing the first hymn, let me remind you to leave yourselves muted. However, we want you and whoever is with you to sing with Jan or Mary as big and loud as you like. Make it a joyous experience. So let's now sing the opening hymn with heart and mind, number 300.
With heart and mind and voice and pen, may we this time and place transcend to make our purpose understood. A mortal search for mortal good, a firm commitment to the goal of justice, freedom, peace for all. A mind that's free to seek the truth, a mind that's free in age and youth, to choose a path no threat impedes, wherever light of conscience leads. Our fathers died so we could be a church where every mind is free. A heart that's kind, a heart whose search makes love the spirit of our church, where we can grow and each one's gift is sanctified and spirits lift, where every door is open wide for all who choose to step inside.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist community of Cambria. We are glad you have joined us today. As a Unitarian Universalist community, we celebrate religious diversity and welcome all who journey in search of faith and spirituality. The UUCC is a lay-led congregation inviting speakers from different religious traditions and spiritual or scientific backgrounds to speak in our pulpit. We encourage presentations covering a variety of topics and areas of interest to our community that connect with the UU 7 principles. Today's service centers around the third principle. We affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Spiritual growth isn't about a vertical ascent to heaven, but about growth in every dimension at once. It's spirituality in 3D. Growth in spirit doesn't measure one's proximity to God above, but rather the spaciousness of one's own soul, its volume, its capacity, its size. We need souls that can take in the world in all its complexity and diversity, yet still maintain our integrity. We need souls that can love and be in relationship with all of this complexity. Instead of fight or flight, we need a spiritual posture of embrace. My name is Susan Landau, and I am your worship associate this morning. I would like to extend a special welcome to today's guests and visitors. We are glad you've joined us this morning under these challenging circumstances. If you are not on our mailing list, please visit our website at www.uuccambria.org so that we can keep you informed about all of our activities. You can sign up to receive our newsletter on our website. As a reminder, if you wish to see this or any of our past Zoom services again, recordings of these services can be found on the UUCC website and Facebook as well. The membership committee invites non-members to consider becoming a member of our community. Please contact Janet Cooper or a board member if you are interested. Thank you. So again, good morning and welcome to everyone.
Good morning.
Let us now recite the affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. We set aside this time for any short announcements that would be of interest to our UU community members and friends. Please keep your items short and to the point. If your item needs more explanation, please email or call the person after the service to be respectful of everyone's time. If you have an announcement, please raise your hand by clicking on the Raise Hand button near the lower right of your participant's window. When Andy calls your name, click the Unmute Me button near the lower left of the participant's window and then speak. And our first announcement will be Randy.
Good morning.
Hi.
Tomorrow afternoon, 5 o'clock at our place, 2400 Burton Drive, will be our monthly worship committee meeting. So it's on Zoom. I'm sorry. Scratch that. Mary and I will be at the address. The rest of us will be wherever you are, in your undisclosed locations. Okay, so we're meeting at 5 o'clock tomorrow, so worship committee members be there, and the rest of you are welcome to join us. 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Randy. I see Amanda has her hand raised. Amanda, please unmute yourself and make your announcement. Amanda, do you have an announcement?
Hear me
Okay.
now? Sorry.
Yes, there you go.
Sorry about that. I had my mic muted inappropriately. The Dolan fire, they're estimating 20,000 acres, but they can't even fly over it to see where the edges are, and it's 10% contained. The reason I'm bringing this up as an announcement is please take care with your health. The air quality last Monday was 77. Today it's 180. Tomorrow it's going to be 295. It's unhealthy air. You can go to iqair.com and look up Cambria and you can get directly what we have. You can also go to lookslikeyounneediceland.com and record your primal scream and they will play it over speakers all over Iceland.
Wow, okay. Thank you, Amanda. Janet, your hand is raised. Please unmute yourself and make your announcement.
Thank you. Yeah, today is fourth Sunday, and today we're taking our second collection for Green Space. This collection is important. Green Space has been unable to hold its main annual fundraiser, the Art and Adventure Auction, and they could use some additional help with ongoing expenses. So please consider a donation, and if you do donate online, all you do is simply select Fourth Sunday in the pull-down menu to make sure it goes to Green Space. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Mary Ann, your hand is raised. Please unmute yourself and make your announcement.
Yeah, hi everybody. You may probably know that the concert that was scheduled for next Sunday at the Olaberry Inn has been postponed, but we have a new venue, a full band on September 12th. It's going to be at the Pines up on Cambria Pines Drive in a beautiful location. It's outdoors, it's socially distanced even for the band. It's going to be on September 12th. It's limited as to how many people can come, so please contact me. Just contact me directly if you're interested in having a reservation. It's free, but all the donations go to the musicians, and I'd really appreciate your support. It's going to have a trio, guitar, bass, and drum. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Ann. Nancy, please unmute yourself and make your announcement. Nancy, can you unmute? There you go. Try one more time.
There, I see it. Yeah, technology is not my strong point here. But I just want to announce that we are having our second meeting of moving towards racial justice on Wednesday, September 9th at 7 p.m. We'll be putting links into the newsletter, but I'm also going to send out links for there are going to be 2 videos to watch beforehand that we'll be discussing. So if you want to email me at Tolen, that's my last name, THOLEN, @charter.net, I'll send you that information.
Thank you, Nancy. Lou, please unmute yourself and make your announcement.
Following on what Amanda said, and I'll follow again during Joys and Concerns, I don't know if everybody knows this or whether it would be useful, but the N95 masks are very effective at removing smoke. So if you have to go out or if you've let it into your house, when you're using one of those, you don't smell it. And they're for sale at Cambria Pharmacy. I have stock there for $5.25 a piece.
Okay. Thank you, Lou. Marcia or Jeff or Jess, please unmute yourself and make your announcement.
Hi there. Thank you. Apparently, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, I made an announcement about the island of Mauritius, which has an oil spill on it. Apparently, I confused everybody because I put that on my joy and concern because I was concerned about it. I'm still concerned. They still have oil to clean up. However, they're making some, I think, headway and gains on it. But it's really the people of Mauritius that are doing it and not really the government. The government seems to be impeding a lot of their work, which is, hey, politics abides everywhere. At any rate, just thought I'd put a word in for anybody who wants to try and do something or send any help towards Mauritius. It's a beautiful place. It's amazing. And the people definitely do need help. I'm just trying to create an awareness there. It's a small island in the Indian Ocean, just east of Madagascar. And at any rate, you might want to look it up and just kind of find out what's going on there. It's an amazing place, especially its geographic features, especially in the sea right off the island. You'll see some of those probably when you start to look it up. It's kind of, it's so impressive when you look at it. It's kind of like you don't think it's real. It looks like an island falling off the edge of the earth. It's kind of amazing. I would suggest you all take a look at it, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jeff. That's it. Back to you in the sanctuary.
Next week, we continue our Summer Sermons by Other People series. Mary Schwalbe will read When Faced with Evil, written by Reverend Eric Walker Wickstrom. Sharing together some of our personal and significant joys and concerns brings us closer together as a faith community. We invite you to share the milestones that are deeply felt as part of your personal life. But please be mindful and considerate of all who come to worship with us this morning. This is a time of community building. The 4 characteristics of humanism are curiosity, a free mind, belief in good taste, and belief in the human race. E. M. Forster. Humanism is an approach to life which encourages ethical and fulfilling living on the basis of reason and humanity, and rejects superstition and religion. The most immediate impact of us living as a humanist is that we believe this life is all there is, so what we do and the choices we make really count. Stephen Fry. To embrace humanism is to embrace the concept that caring for our fellow human beings is our highest calling. Sean Faircloth. Morality comes from humanism and is stolen by religion for its own purposes. Christopher Hitchens. Faith in God means believing absolutely in something with no proof whatsoever. Faith in humanity means believing absolutely in something with a huge amount of proof to the contrary. We are the true believers. Joss Whedon. Being a humanist means trying to behave decently without expectation of rewards or punishment after you are dead. Kurt Vonnegut. Let us join in a time of meditation, prayer, and silence. Let us seek the quiet and the calm, laying aside our struggles. And in the silence, may there be a reverence in our hearts, a thankfulness within our spirit, and a deepened understanding of the meaning of our lives. Let us enter the stillness. Please come back now. The second reading is an excerpt from an article that ran on July 24th, 1981 in the New Republic, titled "The Humanist Phantom, A Clash of Ignorant Armies." Reverend Tim LaHaye, another founder of the Moral Majority, explains that humanism snuck into America via European rationalists such as Voltaire, and has now become, quote, "the most dangerous religion in the world," end quote. But he was speaking on behalf of the moderate mainstream anti-humanism. For the truly blood-curdling stuff, one has to travel deep to the end of the anti-humanist spectrum. Here one finds, among others, Pastor Leo Wine of Ashland, Oregon. He did a series of radio programs on humanism. One began with a look at current humanist activities. Why are the humanists promoting sexual perversion? Because they want to create such an obsession with sex among our young people that they will have no time or interest for spiritual pursuits. So what do we have? Humanist obsessions. Sex, pornography, marijuana, drugs, self-indulgent rights without responsibility. Self-indulgence and rights without responsibility. Humanists will continue leading us towards the chaos of the French Revolution. After all, it is the same philosophy that destroyed France and paved the way for the dictator Napoleon Bonaparte. This time, the humanists hope to name their own dictator, who will create out of the ashes of our pro-moral republic a humanist utopia, an atheistic, socialistic, amoral humanist society for America and the rest of the world. In fact, their goal is to accomplish that takeover by or before the year 2000. A generation ago, the pernicious sappers of our vital spiritual juices were called godless communists. Now they are secular humanists. Jan Callner will now sing Let This Be a House of Peace by Jim Scott.
I just got a notice that my internet connection is not great, so just hope it goes through at least as long as the song is.
Let this be a house of peace, of nature and humanity, of sorrow and elation. Let this be our house, a haven for the healing, an open room for questions and our inspiration. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of freedom, guardian of dignity and worth held deep inside us. Let this be our house, a platform for the free voice, where all our sacred differences here shall not divide us. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let all in this house see truth, where scientists and mystics abide in reverence here. Let this be our house, a house of our creation, where works of art and melodies and cradle consecrate the atmosphere. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of prophecy. May vision for our children be our common theme. Let this be our house of myth and lore and legend, our trove of ancient story and cradle of our tender dreams. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace.
Thank you, Jan. Today we continue our Summer Sermons by Other People series. During the month of August, members of our community will read sermons written and published by notable clergy and laity with which each of the readers has found a deep connection. The Humanist in Me, written by Reverend Bruce Clear, will be read by Randy Schwalbe. Randy?
Thank you, Susan. Let's see if it works. As I have shared before, my parents wedded in a Unitarian church, a full-fledged ceremony in front of 15 witnesses. Their union was shunned by both families, my father having been raised Protestant, my mother Catholic. This humble beginning would indicate that the vitriol both extended families felt toward each other was on par with such adversaries as God and Satan, or even worse, Michigan and Ohio State. Anyway, my own spiritual development followed labyrinth-style paths, lots of starts and stops. But it was in the liberal environment of the UCLA campus that I discovered quite resolutely my affinity toward all that was humanist. I soon developed a sense of security so that when confronted by the various Bible thumpers on Bruin Walk, I had answers to all their challenges, at least enough to quell their intense salesmanship. And I joyfully continue this practice today with my Jehovah's Witness friends who show up on my doorstep every so often. If God is perfect, I would ask them, and we are all part of God's plan, then why are there wrong answers and bad decisions? I have a whole list of probing questions, and I have not seen them for a while. Is it me or COVID? Okay, I digress. My exploration into all that is humanism, including secular humanism, led me to formulate my religious affiliation, fundamental agnosticism. Okay, agnosis cannot be fundamental. However, I am very comfortable with unanswered questions of the spiritual cosmos. So I adopted a phrase from some B-space Western movie when asked who or what God is. And my reply, may the force be with you. Simple, elegant. In 1993, Reverend Bruce Clear became the minister of the All Souls Unitarian Church in Indianapolis, which celebrated its 100th birthday in 2003. He served the church until 2011 when he retired due to health issues. The congregation later voted to bestow upon him the honor of Minister Emeritus. Prior to being installed at All Souls, he served the UU Church of Vancouver in Washington State. That church was lay-led for 22 years until Reverend Clear was called to be its first minister in 1983. He earned his doctorate of divinity at University of Chicago Medville Seminary. I give you now Reverend Bruce Clear. I have come to discover that what most people know about humanism, they learned from the lips of Jerry Falwell, Pat Robertson, and other televangelists. It is a shame that this is so, but it is. One key leader of the religious right, Tim LaHaye, wrote an immensely popular book years ago about humanism that has probably been read by more people in this country than the works of the humanist writers Bertrand Russell and John Dewey put together. Let me share with you what lots of people know or think they know about humanism, as explained by LaHaye in his popular book entitled The Battle for the Mind. A few excerpts will do. Quote, humanism is not only the world's greatest evil, but until recently, the most deceptive of all religious philosophies. They're committed to doing away with every single vestige of the responsible moral behavior that distinguishes man from animals. Humanist politicians permitted Russia to conquer the satellite countries of Europe and turn them into socialist prisons. Humanist politicians prevented us from winning in Korea and Vietnam, and they voted to give away the Panama Canal. No humanist is qualified to hold any governmental office in America. United States Senator, Congressman, Cabinet member, State Department employee, or any other position that requires him to think in the best interest of America. Humanists work untiringly to keep parents from injecting any moral ideas into their children. Believe it or not, their goal is a worldwide generation of young people with a completely amoral or animal mentality. The incidence of rape has doubled in the last decade. An incredible increase in promiscuity, premarital sex, trial marriages, STDs, abortions, and so forth has soiled our social fabric. Those immoral expressions of amorality can be laid right at the door of atheistic, amoral humanism that permeates our country. The book continues in this vein, on and on, with invective against humanism. Since I think you probably get the idea mercifully, I'll end the quotes here. I had thought before reading that book that humanism was a small, esoteric group of deep thinkers with high ideals, but certainly not very powerful. Apparently, humanists have been busier than I had imagined. Now I discovered from Mr. LaHaye that they have been busy spreading STDs and abortions, and to add insult to injury, they gave away the Panama Canal. I have been associated with humanist groups since I was in college. For most of that time, it has been my experience that humanists have been frantically and, for the most part, unsuccessfully trying to get their message out to the public at large. What they couldn't achieve, the religious fundamentalists did. Today, humanism has name recognition far beyond the wildest dreams of humanists in past generations. They have achieved the status of a household word. The name is heard on the evening news and mentioned from some pulpits about as often as the Bible, and it is standard fare for letters to the editor. None of this, of course, was their doing. No amount of money could have purchased the widespread publicity, however inaccurate, that they received, and they owe it all to the religious right. For the record, humanism is not just the whipping boy of the religious right wing in this country. It was not simply created for the benefit of televangelist fundraisers to help put the fear of God into their potential contributors. No, humanism is an ancient tradition, tracing back over centuries of early Greek thinkers. These Greek thinkers, people like Socrates and Aristotle, identified human reason as far more powerful and effective than superstition, and urged civilization away from reliance on magical and supernatural understandings of life. In 1933, Harvard church historian J.A.C.F.R. offered the following definition of humanism in his book, Humanism States Its Case. Quote, "Humanism is a system of thought which assigns predominant interest to human affairs as compared with the supernatural or the abstract, and which believes that human beings are capable of controlling these affairs." Unquote. Like most of us, I first encountered the word humanism when studying the Renaissance period of history, when the great writers, artists, and scientists of our civilization turned their attention away from the heavens and discovered human beings in a new light. The scientific explorations of the Enlightenment added to the momentum of humanism by offering the scientific method as a new standard of evaluating truth, as a new measure for testing human knowledge. My own understanding of contemporary humanism came in high school by reading the writings of Bertrand Russell. This exceptional thinker represents, I think, much of the best of the humanistic tradition: a thirst for knowledge, a commitment to justice, and an unswerving optimism about the progress of humanity. His one-page summary of his life, which introduced a 700-page autobiography, captures for me the spirit of humanism as it can be lived in real life. For those who think humanism has to be painless, I recommend the opening sentence. And Bertrand says, "The three passions, simple but overwhelmingly strong, have governed my life: the longing for love, the search for knowledge, and unbearable pity for the suffering of humanity." As a teenager, when I encountered the humanist philosophy exhibited through the writings of Russell and later John Dewey, this fresh approach appealed to me deeply. Some might say I was corrupted through my reading of humanist writings in general and Bertrand Russell in particular. It feels far closer to the truth for me to say that I was liberated by them. Humanism is not a particularly complicated idea. It is not a set of beliefs so much as it is a set of commitments. It means holding concern for this worldly matters rather than other worldly matters, and being committed to that which improves the human condition in this world. Today, I find my link to the humanist view reinforced most strongly whenever I am asked to lead a memorial service for someone who has died. It is at these times that I understand most clearly that the life we live here and now is what counts most profoundly, and that our speculations about other world issues have little more significance than that, speculations. Let me offer one more description of the humanist view. One of the better summaries I have found is in an unsigned pamphlet that was used by the Humanist Association I belonged to for many years in Portland, Oregon. It said this: humanism is non-dogmatic and open-ended. It is the belief that human beings are the source of meaning and values. It is a scientific search, self-correcting and open to change with a new knowledge and new insights. Humanism is deeply concerned with ethics and values. But rather than telling people what they should or should not do, it assists in their search for values and attempts to help them achieve their full positive potential as human beings. Humanists see humanity as having the capacity for continued growth and development, and they accept responsibility for encouraging that growth. On the surface, this sounds suspiciously like Unitarianism, does it not? Well, it should, because Unitarians and humanists do, of course, have a great deal in common. It is not just a surface similarity. As a matter of fact, humanism, as an organized movement in the United States, began within Unitarian churches. In the opening years of the 20th century, John Dietrich, a Unitarian minister in Spokane, Washington, and later in Minneapolis, Minnesota, was preaching a non-theistic religion he called humanism. In Des Moines, Iowa, a Unitarian minister named Curtis Reese was preaching a non-theistic religion he called religion of democracy. When these two met at a conference in 1917, they discovered the similarities of their messages, and Reese eagerly adopted Dietrich's label, humanism. Throughout the 1920s, the humanist view attracted many followers by the denomination. Eventually, the Humanist Fellowship was formed largely by Unitarians at the University of Chicago. This group later reorganized as the American Humanist Association. In 1933, a statement outlining the philosophy of humanism was published under the title A Humanist Manifesto. Of the 84 people who originally signed the document, over half were Unitarian ministers. The most famous signatory, though, was John Dewey, the philosopher who was then at Chicago and later at Columbia University. In considering my own views, I must also consider the relationship of humanism and Unitarianism. I am a humanist, and I am a Unitarian Universalist. I have been a humanist longer than I have been a Unitarian Universalist. Like many others, when I discovered the Unitarian Church, I found that my humanist thinking was not only compatible there, it was welcome. This was a delightful surprise to me, as it has been for many, many others. Is there a difference then between Unitarianism and humanism? Humanism, as a movement, I have tried to show, is deeply rooted in Unitarianism. It is also fair to say that Unitarianism is an organized movement, is historically rooted in the long-standing humanist traditions of the Enlightenment. As compatible and related as they are, though, I believe there are subtle differences in emphasis that ought to be recognized. One of the best statements of Unitarianism that I have seen that gets at the differences between Unitarianism and humanism is from an article by Marvin Shaw, a Unitarian who is a professor of religious studies at Montana State University. The reason this is such an excellent statement is, of course, because Shaw agrees with me. He is saying something that I've been saying over and over for years until now I'm almost sick of saying it. Unitarianism is not about beliefs. It is about values. So if you want to know about Unitarianism, if you want to know what it is about, don't ask the question, what do Unitarians believe? That is not the proper question. Here's what Shaw says. The basis of unity in Unitarian Universalist churches and fellowships is not shared beliefs, but a common quest and the affirmation of the values necessary for its furtherance. Our liberal religious societies are not based on agreement as to belief, but on agreement as to method. We agree in affirming the value of a free and wide-ranging inquiry in religious belief, and we vow to establish an atmosphere in which the religious quest is nurtured and encouraged. This is about as good a summary of the Unitarian approach as I have seen. It is more important that we value freedom and respect for one another than it is that we value truth, or our own version of the truth. This attitude or orientation that Unitarians share has its roots in the humanist tradition. Humanism, if it has taught anything, has taught the value of free inquiry, free thought, and freedom of belief. But I see a subtle difference in emphasis on this between the Unitarian approach and the humanist approach. It is common for the Unitarians to summarize their values into these three words: freedom, reason, tolerance. These are all words inherited from the humanist tradition: freedom, reason, and tolerance. The subtle difference in emphasis I see, though, is that in the Unitarianism, the value of freedom takes precedence. Watch this. And in humanism, the value of reason takes precedence. This does not mean at all that Unitarians reject reason or that humanists reject freedom. Rather, as I say, it is merely and subtly a difference of emphasis. Both approaches are highly compatible. As a result, my experience of humanism as it has evolved in the United States is that it is less inclined than Unitarianism to incorporate a wide diversity of beliefs within its boundaries. And my experience of Unitarianism as it has evolved is that it is less inclined than humanism to require rational test of acceptable beliefs within its boundaries. The risk involved for Unitarianism is that it seems to attract some flaky ideas in people. The risk involved for humanism is that it inhibits creative and imaginative ideas in people because they haven't passed the litmus test of rationalism. Let me give you an example. I would like to introduce to you three Unitarian friends of mine. I will call them Tom, Dick, and Harry. Tom, Dick, and Harry represent some extreme examples, but oh, wait a second. You know what? I should be using someone who's famous, so let me just fix this real quickly. There we go. Okay. Now, you know what? That's too much of a distraction. Let me try this again. We'll go with these guys. Here we go. Let me state this again. Tom, Dick, and Harry will represent somewhat extreme examples, but they do, I think, illustrate the point. I think of Tom as kind of strange. I'm sure he thinks of me the same way. His ideas take him further afield of reality than I would ever dream of going. He loves to play exotic fortune-telling gizmos like the I Ching and runes. These are not just games to him. They are life-enriching activities. He doesn't really think they foretell the future or give sage advice, but he does find them intriguing enough to use in better understanding of his life. Tom has been into just about every psychological fashion that comes along. He's taken his turn at pyramids and crystals, and he knows about auras and daemons, and of course, he is a strict vegetarian. Tom will share his explorations with me if I ask, but he doesn't insist that I try them too. Tom is also into Eastern religions, and if you visit his house, you'll find a little Buddha stuck up on his bookshelf. Tom spends a lot of time meditating in front of that Buddha. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Dick. Dick is a Unitarian Christian who reminds me continually that all the early Unitarians were Christians, and he is true to that tradition. Dick is, of course, a liberal Christian. He does not believe that Jesus was God or anything like that. He does not believe in such notions as the resurrection. But he does believe, and he will tell you about it if you ask, that Jesus' teachings about how to live, about loving your neighbor, about serving the least of these teachings are the wisest teachings of any religion. In this sense, Dick is a follower of Jesus, a Christian. He looks to the teachings of Jesus as his ethical guide and the model of Jesus' life as his spiritual guide. He does not believe the Bible to be literally true. To him, it is a historical document like any other, but he does find in the Bible inspiration and insight into life's tough questions. Dick is a member of the UU Christian Fellowship, an organization of Christian Unitarians that promotes Bible study and other Christian activities. When the UU Christians gather together, they share a Christian communion service. And then, of course, there's Harry. Harry subscribes to what he calls eco-spirituality. When I'm in the mood to kid Harry, I call him a tree hugger. Harry looks to nature for the source of his inspirational sustenance. One of the definitions of humanism that I read earlier, and that is the belief that human beings are the source of meaning and values. Harry would say that is too limited. He does not distinguish humanity as separate from nature. So he would say that nature itself is the source of meaning and values. Harry is a pantheist. He does not believe in a God separate from the world, but believes that God permeates the world and all of nature. All of existence is sacred and worthy of respect and reverence. A tree, a flower, a chipmunk are all expressions of the divine, or so says Harry. Albert Schweitzer liked to refer to his philosophy as reverence for life. Harry extends his reverence beyond the human realm, beyond the realm of living organisms, to a reverence for the entire system of nature. Harry celebrates the turning of the seasons and the phases of the moon, the solstices and the equinoxes, as part of his religious rituals. Harry considered joining the group called the Covenant of UU Pagans, but the word pagan disturbed him, even if his ideas were similar to theirs. So I tell you the story of Tom, Dick, and Harry, all Unitarians, to illustrate the subtle differences I see between Unitarianism and humanism. Neither Tom, Dick, nor Harry are typical Unitarians, but they all fall easily within the Unitarian boundaries because they share the same values, though not the same beliefs of other Unitarians. None of them believes that their way is the right way, nor do they think that others must believe as they believe. All of them respect reason, and though their beliefs are not rationalistic, that is, they don't hold that their beliefs have been proven by the scientific method, neither do they think that they are irrational and their beliefs have been proven false. Freedom, reason, and tolerance. In Unitarianism, the primary value is freedom, and therefore Tom, Dick, and Harry fall within the boundaries of Unitarianism, just as most humanism does as well. Freedom is primary, reason is secondary. But for humanism, as I've experienced that movement, the primary emphasis is given to reason over freedom. And generally, Tom, the meditating Buddhist, Dick, the liberal Christian, and Harry, the eco-pantheist, would fall outside the boundaries of humanism. Let me distinguish in a different way between the priority of beliefs on one hand and the priority of values on the other. I myself am a humanist because in my own beliefs, from my own religious journey, reason takes priority. I am a Unitarian because in a broader context than my own, the value of freedom takes priority for me. I must confess that my life is enriched by my association with Tom and Dick and Harry. I do not, nor do I think I ever could, subscribe to their religious beliefs. The humanist in me holds reason too highly to accept their worldviews, but my own journey in life is enhanced by knowing them and discussing issues with them and even arguing with them. The Unitarian in me prizes freedom too highly to exclude them from my religious circle. The humanism I have described today is not all of me. There is more to me than just that. This sermon is the first installation in a series. The humanism I present this morning is explicitly a religious approach to humanism. It should be acknowledged that there's an abundance of schools of humanism, religious and secular, atheistic and theistic, and so forth. The humanism in me is of the religious sort, meaning that it provides for me a statement of meaning which can guide my life. This is the approach to humanism advocated by John Dewey, one of the saints of humanism. His credentials are, I hope, impeccable. In 1984, the year after he signed the Humanist Manifesto, he published a wonderful little book called A Common Faith. In this book, Dewey distinguishes between religion, which he describes as a scientific set of beliefs, and which he doesn't like, and religious, which is a specific quality of experience and which he does not like. His thesis is that there is a religious dimension to human experience, whether or not one holds the beliefs of any specific religion. Dewey speaks out strongly against religion as an institutional force. But he urges us to embrace the religious quality of human experience in our lives, with or without a formal religion to go with it. Here's the way in which he describes humanism as religious. The sense of dignity of human nature is as religious as is the sense of awe and reverence when it rests upon a sense of human nature as a cooperating part of a larger whole. Understanding and knowledge also enter into the perspective that is religious in quality. Faith in the continued disclosing of truth through directed cooperative human endeavor is more religious in quality than is any faith in completed revelation. Any activity pursued on behalf of an ideal end, against obstacles and in spite of threats of personal loss, and because of conviction of its general and enduring value, is religious in quality. So be it.
Normally at this time, we receive offerings from our congregants. However, due to the virtual format of this service, we invite you to make your offerings in one of the methods shown on the slideshow. These methods will also be posted in the newsletter and on the UUCC website itself. Please keep in mind that our congregation is entirely self-governed by the democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all of the financial support for our many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of our spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and our institutional well-being. You are invited to participate in the blessing of giving by sending us an offering. And I'll remind you that this is Fourth Sunday. So offerings will go to green space. Thank you. Thank you, Jan. Our thanks for all gifts given and received for the work of this community. Let us now recite the doxology.
We're going to sing it. From all that dwell below the skies, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land by every tongue.
Please join us in singing the closing hymn, We Would Be One, number 318.
We would be one, as now we join in singing our hymn of love, to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
Let us now recite the valediction. The flame of this chalice will no longer burn today, but the light of the flame within our hearts continues to shine brightly, illuminating the love felt in our community. After the benediction, please move your arrow to the top right of your screen and click the gallery view button. Randy?
Just like backpacking, every morning you start your day by prepping, then you step out onto your path. As you traverse, know that all of your acquaintances are doing the same. As we cherish having our own spiritual path, but just as valuable, we love to share our experiences. We coexist. I celebrate your path. I learn from your path, but do not covet my path, as I will not covet yours. I contend that along with freedom, fellowship is a key value to us. As we join hands virtually, and hopefully soon physically, we can feel the energy of our own paths connecting as a loving community. Traverse your path in peace. Yay! Up to you all.